empire for his people. He believed that prosperity was the key to a stable and enduring empire. But its impact was profound and enduring. To understand Osman III's reign, we must look back at the state of the empire he inherited. The Ottoman Empire, once a beacon of power and cultural richness, was now a shadow of its former self. The empire's history is a tapestry woven with threads of conquest, trade, and cultural exchange, but by the time Osman III ascended to the throne, the fabric was fraying. The Ottomans had known great power and glory. At its zenith, the empire stretched from the gates of Vienna in the west to the deserts of Arabia in the east, encompassing a diverse array of peoples and cultures. The grandeur of the sultan's palaces and the bustling markets of Istanbul were testaments to the empire's wealth and sophistication. For centuries, they were a dominant force in the Mediterranean and beyond. The Ottoman navy ruled the waves, ensuring the empire's influence extended far and wide. Their soldiers, disciplined and formidable, were a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield, securing victories that expanded their territories and solidified their power. However, by the mid-18th century, the empire was facing new realities. The once expansive borders were contracting and the map of the Ottoman Empire began to show signs of its diminishing reach. The territories that had once been symbols of Ottoman might were now slipping away piece by piece. The Ottomans had experienced a series of military defeats. These losses were not just on the battlefield but also in the hearts and minds of the people. The aura of invincibility that had surrounded the Ottoman military was fading, replaced by a growing sense of vulnerability and uncertainty. These defeats challenged their dominance and diminished their territories. The loss of key regions not only weakened the empire's strategic position, but also its economic base. Each lost territory meant a reduction in resources, manpower and revenue, further straining the already beleaguered state. The empire was engaged in costly wars with its European neighbors. These conflicts drained the empire's coffers and sapped its strength. The European powers, with their advancing military technologies and tactics, posed a formidable challenge to the Ottomans, who found themselves increasingly outmatched. These wars drained resources and weakened the Ottoman hold on its periphery. The constant state of warfare left the empire's borders vulnerable and its interior in turmoil. The once stable regions were now hotspots of rebellion and unrest, further complicating the empire's efforts to maintain control. The once feared Ottoman army found itself increasingly outmatched. The soldiers who had once marched with confidence and pride now faced the grim reality of defeat and retreat. The morale of the troops was at an all-time low, and the leadership struggled to inspire and rally their forces. European powers were developing new military technologies and tactics. The advancements in weaponry, strategy, and logistics gave the Europeans a significant edge in the conflicts. The Ottomans, with their outdated methods and equipment, found it increasingly difficult to compete on the same level. The Ottomans struggled to keep pace. The gap between the Ottoman military capabilities and those of their European adversaries widened with each passing year. Efforts to modernize the army were hampered by internal resistance and a lack of resources, leaving the empire at a distinct disadvantage. This led to a sense of vulnerability and decline within the empire. The once mighty fortresses that had stood as symbols of Ottoman strength were now crumbling, and the empire's enemies sensed an opportunity to strike. The internal divisions and external pressures created a perfect storm of challenges for the Ottoman rulers. The Ottoman economy, once the envy of the world, was also showing signs of strain. The bustling markets and thriving trade routes that had fueled the empire's prosperity were now in decline. The economic foundation of the empire was weakening, adding to the growing list of problems facing the state. The wars and the loss of territories impacted trade routes and revenue streams. The disruption of trade routes meant that goods and wealth were no longer flowing into the empire as they once had. The loss of key territories further exacerbated the economic decline, as the empire's ability to generate revenue was severely compromised. The empire's finances were further burdened by corruption and inefficiency. The bureaucratic apparatus that had once efficiently managed the empire's vast resources was now riddled with corruption and mismanagement. Tax collection became increasingly difficult, and the funds that did make it to the treasury were often siphoned off by corrupt officials. These economic woes added to the challenges Osman III would face during his reign. As he took the throne, Osman III inherited an empire in decline, beset by military defeats, economic troubles, and internal strife. His reign would be marked by efforts to navigate these turbulent waters and find a way to restore the glory of the Ottoman Empire. Also more likely to maintain peaceful relations with its neighbors. Osman III was known for his calm demeanor, a trait that set him apart from many of his predecessors. Born into the royal family, he was groomed for leadership from a young age. But his path to the throne was not marked by the usual tales of conquest and bloodshed. Unlike many sultans before him, Osman had an aversion to violence. He was not a warrior sultan, preferring instead the quietude of the palace gardens and the intellectual pursuits that came with governance. His reign was characterized by a distinct lack of military campaigns, a rarity in the history of the Ottoman Empire. Instead, he was a pragmatist. He understood the challenges facing the empire, which was vast and diverse, stretching across 3 continents. The empire was a mosaic of cultures, languages, and religions, and Osman knew that maintaining harmony within such a diverse realm required more than just military might. He believed in diplomacy as a tool to secure the empire's borders. Osman often engaged in diplomatic talks with neighboring states, seeking to resolve conflicts through dialogue rather than warfare. His diplomatic efforts were aimed at creating a network of alliances that would ensure the stability and security of the empire. Osman also saw the importance of internal reforms to strengthen the Ottoman state from within. He initiated several administrative reforms aimed at improving the efficiency of the government. These reforms included restructuring the tax system, reducing corruption, and enhancing the training and discipline of the civil service. His reign was marked by a period of relative peace and stability. The absence of large-scale wars allowed the empire to focus on economic development and cultural flourishing. Towns and cities across the empire experienced a renaissance of sorts, with markets bustling and artisans perfecting their crafts. This was a stark contrast to the turbulent reigns of some of his predecessors, who were often embroiled in continuous warfare. The empire had seen its fair share of bloodshed, and Osman's peaceful approach was a welcome change for many of his subjects. Osman III's approach brought a sense of calm to the empire. His leadership style was more consultative, often involving the council of advisors in decision-making processes. This inclusive approach helped in addressing the concerns of various factions within the empire. He focused on consolidating the Ottomans' holdings rather than seeking further expansion. This strategy was aimed at fortifying the existing territories, ensuring they were well defended and economically viable. The fortifications of key cities were strengthened, and efforts were made to improve infrastructure. This approach earned him respect, both within the empire and abroad. European powers, who were often wary of the Ottoman military might, saw in Osman a ruler who was willing to engage in dialogue and maintain peace. His diplomatic efforts led to several treaties that were beneficial for the empire. European powers saw in Osman III a ruler willing to engage in dialogue and maintain peace. His reign was marked by a series of diplomatic successes that helped to stabilize the region and foster better relations with neighboring states. This allowed for a period of much-needed respite from conflict. The empire, which had been stretched thin by continuous wars, now had the opportunity to recover and rebuild. The soldiers, who had been on the front lines for years, could finally rest and return to their families. It gave the Ottomans a chance to regroup and focus on internal matters. The markets thrived and artisans were able to produce their finest work. The period of peace allowed for cultural and economic growth, setting the stage for a more prosperous future for the empire.